distinguished guests, respected senior colleague from the National Assembly, friends from diplomatic corps, industry, opinion makers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. To begin with, let me start by outrightly appreciating this endeavor which has been rolled out today with the support of SDPI. Abid Suleri Sahab is a dear friend. I know the efforts that he has been making over the last many years to enrich economic discourse in this country. At the same time, I would also like to appreciate Fahad Hussain Sahab, whose return to media has surely helped us focus on the long game rather than just get distracted with the noise that we see around us. So Fahad Sahab, for your leadership and your stewardship, I am extremely grateful. I think this conversation could not have happened at a more appropriate time, because the entire global energy system is going through a structural reset. And platforms like this, which enrich the discourse, and I think these are the values that are very dear to Express Group, and you have always endeavored to keep your criticism and your analysis fact-based. I would also like to second that this is a cause which is also very dear to me, and in the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've also tried to restrict myself just to fact-based analysis and not just make noise to confuse people on issues which will impact the future generations of this country. I would also like to appreciate my friend Mr. Shahbaz Rana Sahab, who's also here. He's been providing us continued guidance on economic matters. I've always appreciated his feedback because I personally know that his heart beats for the right reasons, and we all want a stronger and a more resilient Pakistan. So whatever advices, guidances he needs to provide, he is more than welcome to share via his articles or reach out to any one of us in the government, and it will be appreciated. Fazab, on the positive feedback that you received on my attendance in your show, you can definitely use this forum to share it with the world. On of the negative feedback that you got, you have my number and you can surely speak to me privately on that matter, and I would appreciate that. I think, now coming to the topic at hand, I think the recent disruption in the Hormuz has exposed one thing and one thing alone, and that is how vulnerable our energy supply chains are. Now, how do we utilize that to shift the entire paradigm in which we are thinking is the million-dollar question that forums like this have to thrash out? And when I say we have to push on the energy security needle, on the energy security agenda, I am not simply talking about procuring fuel or molecules from one jurisdiction and diversifying it to another jurisdiction. I think we must also appreciate what does energy security actually imply, because the way I view it, it is fundamentally linked with resilience. Yes, diversification has a huge role in it. Storages that will enable you to tide over turbulence, flexibility, infrastructure preparedness, readiness, because that's another measure. And our lack of flexibility was manifested when we, along with the colleagues from the refinery sector, were forced to procure super sweet crude, and we could not diversify towards sourer crude supplies in distant jurisdictions. And I will also touch upon that, but I think institutional preparedness and coordination at the highest level are touchstones on which this new paradigm and this new regime has to be thought through. And I think that's the primary message that I would give while availing this opportunity. The other thing that I would like to emphasize is, Abid Saab was absolutely clear that, and I'm very kind of Abid Saab to appreciate the way the government was able to handle this extremely challenging environment, because I think sometimes we do not fully appreciate the enormity of the challenge that the country went through. As far as my memory serves, and I have also consulted with my younger industry colleagues like Khatak Saab, who's here, I don't think in world history Dubai crude has ever touched $170 per barrel. Khatak Saab, has it ever touched that level? So that was the enormity of the challenge. Khatak Saab, I don't think diesel Platts has ever touched $285 per barrel. I don't think it has ever happened in the history of commodity markets. And on top of that, I'm not touching upon the complications that arose because of lack of passage from the Hormuz, the lack of availability of vessels, the skyrocketing premiums, the insurances, which was something like $500,000, and we had to bring in cargoes at $5 million per vessel, just paying for that insurance cost. So I think that enormity of the challenge maybe is something that the government has not been able to fully communicate. But people in the industry and intellectuals like you, I am grateful to you, you have continued to educate people on that matter, that it was an extremely challenging environment, and ensuring seamless supply when every third person was coming to me and telling me how much should I stock up in my embassy, how much should I stock up in my home, what should we do to run our plants. I think it was a huge challenge, and providing guidance and stability to the market, that we will respect all the contracts, all the commitments we have made. This will be a partnership, not an adversarial populist endeavor in which we will cull the sanctity of contracts to attain small gains on any other front. So I think that is something that I would like to appreciate. And Fatsab and Abid Sab, you mentioned about what happened in India, you mentioned about what happened in Bangladesh. All this was done without accumulating a single rupee of circular debt in the oil supply chain. The countries that you're talking about, yes, some of them are countries with hundreds of billions of dollars of reserves, yes, but there are also countries which are in an IMF program and have about more than $1 billion of floating liability in their oil supply chain. How they will go about addressing that? What impact would that have? Is the gas sector circular debt. I have two of the largest E&P players in this room, OGDCL, Madi Energy. Ask them how and to what extent the gas sector circular debt continues to haunt them today, although the government of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has stopped further accumulation of circular debt. The only increase that makes headline, Fatsab, and that is where I seek your guidance, is only because the principal has not been paid out. Until the time the principal is not paid out, the interest will continue to increase. But there is no further accumulation of principal. In fact, it is being reduced for the last 9 months. And IMF is validating all those numbers, and I can share it at whichever forum, and these two industry leaders can also vouch for that. And you can interrogate them once I leave the room, so they will give you an honest and independent view on that.
वफाकी वज़ीर पेट्रोलियम अली परवेज़ मलिक का इस्लामाबाद में तकरीब से खिताब। कहा, तवानाई का पूरा आलमी निज़ाम तब्दीली के अमल से गुजर रहा है। SDPI के तावन से माशी शोबे में इक़दामात किए गए। वफाकी वज़ीर ने मज़ीद कहा कि एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के लिए स्टोरेजेस और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर